Hi, my name's Paul Grogan. Welcome to the monthly gaming rules video log for the month of April 2021. In this video log, I'm going to be covering everything that I've done since the last video log, which was 10th of March, right through to the present day. Well, last night at least. A huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you don't know what my Patreon campaign is, basically I use funds from Patreon, which is a crowdfunding platform, in order to pay for a lot of the videos that I create, including this one. So yeah, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for making this video possible. And if you do like the content that I create, then please consider supporting me at patreon.com/gaming rules. Okay. So, a couple of things just before we start. Yes, this is the same jumper as I wear a lot because this is my favourite jumper. Yes, my hair is a bit wild because I haven't had it cut for a long time. In fact, lockdown in the UK has eased this week and hairdressers have reopened. But I didn't want to, I'm not in a desperate rush. So I didn't want to sort of, go there and queue for an hour with everybody else. So I'm basically waiting until next week to get my hair cut. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit less about the games this week. Last month's video log was good and people enjoyed it, but a couple of people said that I did talk a little bit too long about some of the games, and the whole video was about an hour and a quarter, I think, and I kind of want these to be about 45 minutes, so I will try and talk less. Right, first thing is, I'm going to go through all of the games that I've played since the last video log, and this starts off with Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. So if you've watched the last video log, you will know that I was working my way through the campaign and I had 2 chapters left. And I did those 2 chapters as a double live stream on the 12th of March. So 12th of March, I did a bumper live stream where I basically played through the penultimate chapter and then the last chapter. That video is on the channel now. It's a long video because it is the last 2 chapters. Yeah, I can't really, if you don't want any spoilers, then just skip ahead about 30 seconds or a minute, because I failed that last scenario. Now, after playing the game for months and months, with 14 scenarios in total, I was trying to work out whether I was really disappointed by failing that last scenario or not. And I wasn't, because I'd experienced the whole story. I'd got to the end of that scenario. I just played really badly, right? Made some really stupid mistakes, like Legolas forgetting that a bow can be used at more than 3 feet away for a start. So what I then did is I exited out of the app. And I then did another live stream, this time just for Patreon supporters, where I replayed the final scenario. Basically, you can reset the adventure. So you can go back, you can replay that last one again, and I did that. So that is a private stream. If you are a Patreon supporter of mine and you do want to see that final one, then let me know and I can send you the link to it. But yes, I replayed the last chapter as a private stream. And yeah, would I play Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth again? Yes. I loved it. There's a couple of things about it that I wasn't keen on. The repetitive nature was a little bit of a drag at times, but overall, I think it is an excellent game. Really, really good game. The app is brilliantly done, apart from a couple of minor little bugs, and I've only played 1 campaign out of 4. People have said the other 3 campaigns are better, and it's like, oh, okay, so I definitely need to try the second campaign, because you can do that with just extra DLC by buying the extra campaign in the app. The other 2 campaigns rely on the Shadow Paths expansion, which I don't have. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. And as I say, if you want to see those videos, the entire campaign series playthrough is on my channel. Apart from that last one, the replay of the last chapter, which was a special Patreon exclusive. Right, next up, another game that I've played a lot, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. 4 times. Played it 4 times since the last video log. It's pretty much one a week. There was 1 week where we missed, but I've played it on the 16th, the 23rd, the 6th, and last night. Brilliant. Loving it. Absolutely loving it. I won't go into details of spoilers or anything like that, but there is a main storyline in the campaign that you get when you sort of start the campaign. That has now finished for us, and we're now going off and doing side stuff. Each of the characters does have their own quest related to them, which you can only get if you are playing that class. We did the one for the Red Guard, which is the character Vicky's playing last week, and we did the one for the Demolitionist, my character, last night. Now, Vicky made a very good comment last night about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. We're both playing it. We're playing it 2-player. It's a lot quicker 2-player. It's taken us about an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half a game, and we're thoroughly enjoying it. And one thing she said last night, which I tend to agree with, she said, do you think that players who have played Jaws of the Lion, who then go on to Gloomhaven, might be a bit disappointed by the scenarios? And I was like, I see what you're saying there. And the reason for that is, I love Gloomhaven, and I could play Gloomhaven, you know, regularly for the rest of my life. Really, really like it. And I am not in the group of people that think Gloomhaven is just a repetitive tactical combat game. It is a tactical combat game, but it's a card management game. But every scenario of Gloomhaven I play feels different because it's different monsters and different... You could play the same scenario with different characters and it would feel different. It would be a very different scenario. But the fact that each scenario, even if the scenario goal is kill all enemies, and I know a lot of people looked at that and went, oh, boring, kill all enemies. It's the same every time. The enemies and the way that every enemy works is very different. If I had a scenario which was kill all enemies, and it was bandit guards, bandit leaders, and vermling scouts, right? Or it was night demons, oozes, and something else, it would be a very, very different scenario, even though the objective is kill all enemies. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. Every scenario we've played in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion has been interesting because there's been some additional rules. There's been... To say more of a story is wrong because there is the same amount of thematic intro, but the special rules that go with the scenario, and again, I can't really give any examples without giving any spoilers away, but when you look at the scenario, it's like, oh, this is going to be different because that's that and that's that, right? And those special rules are for that special scenario only. And in Gloomhaven, there is some of that, but there's not as much as that. And in Jaws of the Lion, every scenario we've played, apart from the couple of really intro ones, has been really interesting. Certainly the one we played last week, and again, right, it's the scenario related to the Red Guard. If you've played it, drop me a message and let me know, because yeah, it was so interesting, and I can't really talk about it because of spoilers. Anyway, we are loving Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, yeah, that one as well. We're playing it on a Tuesday night regularly, and we're going to carry on playing it. I don't know when we're going to stop, because our characters are now level 4. We're going to play it for another couple of months at least. We'll see how we get on. Next up, Space Race. So I've done a video for Space Race. This is on the channel now if you want to go back and watch it. This was on the 19th of March. I learned how to play it in the afternoon, and then I did a live solo playthrough video. Lockdown rules in the UK are not yet at a point where we can have other people around the house. So it was a solo playthrough with me playing against some AI players. Now, one of the cool things about Space Race, the board game, because it's Space Race, the board game, because it's kind of based on a card game. So in this case, the card game came first. So this is Space Race, the board game, is that you can actually play with up to 5 players with 4 AIs. So every other player that you have in the game can be an AI. If you were playing a 2-player game with you and somebody else, you could add in an AI. So it isn't like, oh, the AI can only be used in a solo game and there's only one opponent. You can play against multiple opponents, which is quite cool. Now, that video was being delivered to backers at the time I did the video. I don't know, I think there's going to be a limited retail release for it. But if you are interested in that, that is on the channel now. Next up, Wildlands Ancients. Oh, just going back to Space Race, that was a sponsored video, so I can't really give you my personal thoughts on that game, other than, I will tell you this. I worked on the rulebook for the game. They commissioned me to work on the rulebook for the game, and that video was a sponsored video to help the backers of the game who were getting it learn how to play. But what I can tell you is from working on the rulebook, I got an idea of how the game would play. And it was only during my actual playthrough of it that I was like, oh, there's a lot more to this than I thought because of the way that you can combo cards together. When you're writing the rulebook, you like, cards have powers, you can play cards, they give you powers, right? You don't realise when you're writing the rulebook the extent of the combos that you can set up with those powers. You know, you can say in the rulebook, on your turn, you can choose one of the available cards. And it sounds simple. But then when I was actually playing the game, I was like, oh, and suddenly all of these things started to unlock. And now, I wasn't very good at it, but I can see now repeated plays of that game as like, all right, that card is going to be really good because then I can move that to here and I can put that in my lab, and then I've got another card that gets a card out of my lab and I can do that. And that one's good because it, oh yeah, the actual depth of the gameplay was more than I was expecting from working on the rulebooks. Not that that's a bad thing, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm just saying that was a surprise for me. Anyway, moving on. Wildlands Ancients, not a sponsored video, I can tell you what I want about it. Even though Osprey Games are now a client of mine, I'm doing some videos for them for the rest of this year, and I'm going to be doing some rulebook with them. Putting that aside, Wildlands Ancients, although they sent me a review copy of the game, this is my pure personal opinion on the game. Wildlands Ancients was fantastic, right? Absolutely loved it, want to play it again, want to play it more. So Wildlands Ancients is an expansion set for Wildlands. It's not a standalone, you need the original Wildlands to play, but Wildlands Ancients contains another faction that you can play in the game of Wildlands. It contains solo rules, it contains cooperative rules, and it contains team rules, so you can play 2v2, and it's got an extra map. So, if you want to know more, I actually talk about this for about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the Wildlands Ancients playthrough. So just go back a few weeks on the channel and check out the Wildlands Ancients playthrough. I'll give you a summary here. I liked Wildlands because Wildlands was different. First of all, Wildlands is a Martin Wallace game, right? So straight away you go, Martin Wallace, this is going to be economic, crunchy, a bit fiddly, you know, and it's going to be, right, and you get it, and you're like, there's 4 pages of rules, and this is a combat game, what's going on, right? Martin is one of the most versatile designers that I know, and this is a sort of skirmishy combat game where you're also trying to collect crystals, but it's card play. It is a card management game, and it is a card play game, and the way that the card plays work is brilliant, absolutely love it. However, after multiple plays of Wildlands and its successor Judge Dredd, which is a similar game but in a Judge Dredd theme, I personally feel that the game of Wildlands is flawed. Now I know a number of people disagree with that, and if you disagree with it, that's absolutely fine. Please let me know why, because there's a problem with kill stealing in Wildlands, okay? So for me, Wildlands Ancients is the game that Wildlands should have been. And Wildlands Ancient fixes all of the problems that I have with Wildlands. Wildlands, unfortunately, for me, was on the shelf as I will never play this game again unless it's 2-player, because then you don't have the issue of kill stealing. Unfortunately, the game doesn't really work at 2-player because the maps are too big. Now, they did release a special map which is for 2-player game only, which is great, but then suddenly I've got 5 maps of which I can only use 1. But Wildlands Ancients introduces team rules. I love team-based games, right? So I really want to play Wildlands team-based. It contains the solo game, and the solo game where you're playing against these 5 different factions, it was brilliant, and that's on the channel if you want to see it. Now, it was a tense game, and I won't spoil it for you. Unfortunately, after the game finished, somebody did let me know that I got a little rule wrong at the end, which actually would have changed the outcome. So apologies for that if you do go back and watch it. But anyway, Wildlands Ancients, if you have the same thought as I do on Wildlands and you own a copy and it's sat there never getting played, check out Wildlands Ancients, because as I say, for me, it's the game that it should have been and it fixes all of the problems with Wildlands. If you have no problems with Wildlands, take a look at it anyway. Right, next up, Pavlov's House. This is another game that was not, I did videos for this, this was not a sponsored video, okay? I've become friends with David Thompson, the designer, and he spoke to DVG, who are the publisher of Pavlov's House, and they sent me a review copy of the game, and I said, in return, I'll do you a video playthrough of it. So no money changed hands, but I did get a copy of the game, and I did say that I'd do a video playthrough of it. Now, Pavlov's House is not the kind of game that you would think that I would play. If you've been following my channel for the last few months, you will think, oh yeah, it's fine. But if you've been away for like 6 months and you think, oh yeah, Paul Grogan, he's that guy who likes his Euro games and no dice and no luck and things like that. Well, Pavlov's House is a World War II combat game with lots and lots of dice and lots of random elements. Now, saying that there's lots of random elements, there is a skill level to the game. But for those who don't know, I actually have a little bit of an interest in World War II history. And what David Thompson has done with a series of games, Pavlov's House being one of them, he's found really fascinating parts of World War II that are very, very small scale. So we're not talking big battles here that take part over days or months or with loads of tanks or anything else. We're talking about a very, very small, more personal stories. And Pavlov's house was a house in Stalingrad, and it was a very critical point of the Battle of Stalingrad. The Germans tried to take this house for like 2 months. Pavlov and his group of Soviet soldiers captured the house, which is why it then later became known as Pavlov's house. And the game is basically it's a defense game. You're taking taking on the role of the Russian soldiers in Pavlov's house, and the Germans are attacking you and bombing the surrounding area. And there's loads of dice rolls and everything else. But the more I've played it, the more I've got better at it. So if you're looking for something different, go and check out that playthrough of Pavlov's house. Again, I won't give any spoilers, but suffice it to say, it was one of the most tense games that I have ever live streamed right to the end. So yeah, would I play Pavlov's house again? Absolutely, because there's there's a scoring system, so I can try and do better. Obviously, you've got to try and succeed first. There's variant rules, there's optional extras. Yeah, there's a whole amount of stuff in there. I would definitely play it again. It is really a solo game. There are rules for the 2-player game in there, but the 2-player game is basically one player just plays the Russians but doesn't actually make any choices. It's more to teach the other person how to play. Anyway, that's Pavlov's house. I've also covered the digital version, so if you're interested in checking out the digital version, that is available as well. That's on Steam. Next up is another game that you might be surprised. Middle-earth collectible card game, or Middle-earth The Wizards collectible card game. This game came out in 1995. I have hundreds of cards of this game, and over the last 25 years, since first getting it in 1995, I've sort of dabbled. Every 3 or 4 years I go, oh yeah, I've got that game, and I'll go back to it and I'll start reading the rules. Well, thankfully, despite lockdown, we now have something called Tabletop Simulator. And somebody has obviously recreated all of the cards. I mean, this game has been out of print for over 20 years now. So I know it probably is technically illegal for somebody to scan in these cards and make a Tabletop Simulator mod for it. But I have hundreds of these cards in my attic. So I use Tabletop Simulator, and also there's another website designed by some fans of the game called Cardnum, which they're working on at the moment, and I've played a game on that. But over the last few weeks, I've played 3 games of Middle-earth The Wizards against a friend of mine, Paul Snuggs, who lives locally but can't come round due to lockdown. We've been dipping our toes into this game because it is a hugely complex game with a massive learning curve and an inaccessible rulebook. But thankfully, we found some walkthrough tutorials of the game. None of these videos are available on the channel. I did stream them privately to Patreon supporters as a behind the scenes of what I'm doing. But at some point over the next month or 2, I do plan on doing some playthrough games of Middle-earth The Wizards collectible card game on the channel. Because it's a game, I love Middle-earth, I love Tolkien, and this game was great. It's just a very, very different style of game from any other collectible card game. So more news on that later. Next up, Codenames Online. So this is a game I played that wasn't streamed. This wasn't even streamed to Patreon supporters. But this was on the 2nd of April. So this was after... What was it after? I think it was after... I've written down 2nd of April. I can't remember this. Anyway, one night I was a bit stuck for something to do. I wasn't really in the mood for watching telly. I wasn't really in the mood for doing anything else. And I was like, I don't really want to go to bed. What should I do? Posted on my Patreon supporters Slack channel and said, I'm a bit sort of restless tonight. Anybody got any ideas? Does anybody want to see me playing a solo game or something like that? And Scott Hill said, why don't we play some Codenames online? So it was like, okay, sure. So we got together with a few other people on the Slack channel and we played 3 games of Codenames Online using the codenames.game interface. It was brilliant, really good night, just what I needed. It took us about, an hour and a half or something, and then we had a chat later about various things. And yeah, Codenames, still a great game to play now, and you can play it for free at home with your friends around the world. Codenames.game, completely free. Really good, really good. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Next up, on the 5th of April, I did Ashes Rise of the Phoenix Reborn, right? So Ashes Reborn is version 1.5 of Ashes. Ashes is a game that came out from Plaid Hat Games, and then it kind of died. But then when Plaid Hat Games has broken free from Asmodee, and they've gone it on their own again, they have relaunched Summoner Wars and they've relaunched Ashes. I loved Ashes. I have been on record and said Ashes is my favourite two-player Wizards dueling game, although I've also played it at 3 and that was brilliant as well. And it can be played 2 versus 2. Yeah, Ashes is just fantastic. I absolutely love Ashes as a game, and Ashes Reborn is an updated, tweaked version. Now, I was a little surprised because I thought Ashes was fantastic. And I'm like, okay, it's great to see that they're re-releasing it, but they're going to tweak it as well. I'm really curious as to what these tweaks are. And then when I started looking into the tweaks, I was like, oh yeah, actually, you're right. I think about, that I agree with that change. That's a really good one. But when you choose to block, you have to counter-attack rather than, okay. And there was a couple of other quirks with the game as well, which at the level I was playing at weren't a problem. But at the level that the serious gamers were playing at, ended up causing a few glitches in the space-time continuum and timing issues. So they've tidied that up. What I was not expecting is them to update 370 cards. So I have the Ashes Reborn upgrade pack, and it has 370 new cards in it. And I have upgraded my old decks to the new decks, and the amount of changes was quite extensive. It wasn't just the odd tweak here and there. Some of them have changed massively. Now, I don't mind that, and they're probably better. I was just surprised at how much things had changed. So we've been playing Ashes Reborn, again, same guy has been playing Middle-earth card game with, Paul Snuggs. And because we've both got Ashes, we've both got the physical game, we've both, got the upgrade pack. So we've been playing that online. And Ashes is just brilliant. Now that video was, again, streamed to Patreon supporters. It was a behind the scenes. Me and Paul were just relearning how to play the game. So it's not the kind of video that I'd like. You might think, oh, why am I doing all of these videos for Patreon supporters? Why am I not putting them on the channel? If I'm just there and I'm fiddling around and I'm learning how to play a game, that's not really a good video, I don't feel, for going public. So yeah, I'm doing a few of those, but there will be some Ashes Reborn coverage on the channel at some point. And when lockdown ends, it will be a real game with physical components, because yeah, absolutely love Ashes. Next up is Mage Knight. So this is the 7th of April. Mage Knight, my #1 favourite game of all time, and I got to play it. Now, I had plans for the 7th of April. I was going to be doing a video in the evening. It was going to be a sponsored video for a game that was coming out, and it was going to be happening on Wednesday, the 7th of April. And then on the Monday, things changed. And suddenly, I wasn't doing that anymore, and I had a free evening. And I was like, ooh, a free Wednesday evening. Now, I normally live stream on a Wednesday evening. What should I do? Maybe I should speak to my Patreon supporters and say, oh, what game do you want me to play? I've got a free evening. And then I saw Tom Heath from Slicker Drips on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock is playing Mage Knight. Now, me and Tom had already spoken a week before about doing a joint stream of Mage Knight. So I contacted Tom and said, your solo playthrough of Mage Knight on Wednesday, do you want to make it a 2-player playthrough? So we did. So that happened on the 7th of April. And I did something that I don't think has ever been done before. And it went really well. I was really nervous about it. Really nervous about it, but it went really well in that both me and Tom, we live streamed at the same time. Tom streamed to his channel, I streamed to my channel, and we both had the game set up, and we were both mirroring exactly what was happening, apart from somehow we both got a firebolt. And then I was sending my feed to Tom, and Tom was sending his feed to me. I was including Tom's feed in my feed. So when it was Tom's turn, I'd press some buttons on my stream deck and my view would switch over to what Tom's camera was showing. So effectively, it doesn't matter whether you watched my channel or Tom's channel, you were getting a very similar thing. But on my channel, you got my chat and me. And on Tom's channel, you got Tom's chat and Tom. But what you were seeing in the main window was the same. My opinion of Mage Knight has not changed, but that was a very, very odd game. I found myself in a position that I don't think I've ever been in before. And I just found myself in a really, really bad situation, which, looking back and talking to other people afterwards, was my fault. I basically made a rush for the city at the end. There was nowhere to recruit. I hadn't recruited enough. So whilst I was a good enough level, I'd skipped over some of the important key recruitment locations in the middle of the board, and none came out at the end, but I decided to be stubborn and not head back. And what I should have done is realised I'm not going to be able to do this now. I need to head back, take over a keep and a mage tower, do some recruiting, and then go back to the city. And I didn't. I was stubborn and I went, oh, I'm not going back. I'm the same when I'm driving. If I drive or walk somewhere, I don't like going back the same way. It's just one of my things. So I decided that I'd just go around and kill the dragons and everything else. And then when I actually went to fight the last city, the enemies had paralysis, which means I just couldn't do it. And I thought, oh, maybe if I wait a turn and get some better cards. And then I went, wait a minute, I don't even think I have the cards in my deck to do it. Now, somebody did point out later as a comment on the video that if I'd have done something else and something else, I would have got Mana Thunderbolt and then might have been able to do it. But at the time when doing the live stream, yeah, great game. Would love to play it more. Yeah, it's still my #1 favourite game. And yeah, that video's on the channel. Even if you're just curious about the technical aspects of how we dual streamed it, because as I say, I don't think anybody has done that before. I know a lot of people now are doing remote playthroughs, but a remote playthrough where both parties are both streaming it at the same time and you're capturing the other person's feed and putting it on yours. Anyway, it worked really well. So yeah, thank you very much to everybody for watching that. Then over the weekend, last weekend just gone, 9th to the 11th of April was virtual BACON. BACON is a UK games convention that's been running for over 30 years. It's held over there, down the road. It's about 15 minutes drive away from where I live, so it's my most local convention. It's more local than my own convention. And it's always the weekend after Easter. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus pandemic, it had to be virtual this year. So I decided I was going to take the weekend off work and I was going to spend the weekend playing games with friends, which is what I would have done if I'd have gone to BACON. So I got together with some Patreon supporters over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and here's what I played. Friday night, Dominant Species Marine. My first playthrough of the final version of the game, which got released, got delivered to backers on the P500 system a couple of months ago, I think now. I did a tiny little bit of development work on the game in the latter stages of it, because I actually, Chad Jensen, the designer, sadly no longer with us, but Chad contacted me because he was a fan of the work that I did. He knew that I liked Dominant Species, and he wanted me to create a how-to-play video or a playthrough video for Dominant Species Marine, which I did 2 years ago when it was going on the P500. And during those playthroughs afterwards, I ended up having a discussion with Chad about various aspects of the game, and we talked about some possible tweaks to some of the rules. So the playthrough that I did a couple of years ago wasn't the right one, so this video was going to be the right one with the final version of the game and the final rules. But we made a big rules mistake, and we didn't realise until about 2/3 of the way through the game we actually got the speciation rules completely wrong. We were speciating 4 on land and it should have been 1, and we were speciating 2 in the sea and it should have been 4. We carried on playing the game wrong, and we all enjoyed the game, but we put a star on it because we played the game with the wrong rules. Now, you'll find out later, but I am going to redo another Dominant Species Marine this Friday. So tomorrow, probably at the time you're watching this. Anyway, Dominant Species Marine, great. Do I still prefer the original Dominant Species? Yes, I do. Dominant Species Marine is a bit shorter. It's a bit more dynamic, but I find it a little bit more random and prone to, a little bit more random in the way that the survival events come out, the extinction events come out, whereas they are more structured in the original Dominant Species, so you know when they're going to happen. I'd still play it though, but I'd always prefer the original Dominant Species. Next up, Saturday morning, this was a Patreon only stream because I was learning how to play the game. I played Championship Formula Racing. Now, Championship Formula Racing is as you might expect from the name, it's a Formula 1 racing game. It's published by Ultra Pro. The people who make the card sleeves, they also do a couple of games, but also Jolly Roger Games. And it's based on a game called Speed Circuit from about 30 years ago. It's crazy how old the core aspect of this game is. I've been looking for a good Formula 1 racing game for about 15 years, and I've never found one. Every one I've tried, I've had issues with for one reason or another, and I keep trying them. And then a couple of years ago, I got Championship Formula Racing because it had been recommended to me. And I met up with Ultra Pro at Gen Con, I think it was. And yeah, I got a copy of Championship Formula Racing. And I've only played it 3 times, but I can say to you right now, based on my 3 plays of the game, it is the Formula 1 racing game that I've been looking for. The rules are relatively simple, but the gameplay is fantastic. Now, that video is not on the channel. It was streamed to Patreon supporters. So again, if you're a Patreon supporter and you want to see it, let me know. But I will be doing some coverage of Championship Formula Racing on the channel at some point. That was just a learning game, and that wasn't really suitable for live streaming. Plus, we got a couple of the rules wrong, which I've since confirmed with the designer what the rules should be. So there we go. Yeah, great game. Next up, Terraforming Mars with the app. So we played a 4-player game of Terraforming Mars live on the channel. That is a public stream, so it was a 4-player game of Terraforming Mars using the app in the afternoon. Brilliant game. I'm loving Terraforming Mars more and more every time I play it. And like I've said before, it's not that I was wrong on Terraforming Mars, but the opinions I had of Terraforming Mars, that it was overrated. I still think maybe it is a little bit overrated, but I now really like the game and I appreciate the game a lot more than I did even just a few months ago. Yeah, it's a brilliant game. Loved it. The app is extremely good, except for the multiplayer aspect, which just occasionally breaks and you can't get an async going to save it. It's just a nightmare, absolute nightmare. The implementation of the game is brilliant. The look of the game, the feel of the game, even the sound effects, just playing the game is gorgeous. But the multiplayer link up is, I don't know, it's horrendous, really, really bad. And I'm spoiled because we've got other games that are really good to play asynchronously or even live with other people, and they work really well. But that one, yeah, it's a bit quirky. Then in the evening, again, this was not a public stream, but it's something that I played. It was Lord of the Rings, the card game. Now, I have a copy of Lord of the Rings, the card game upstairs. I got it when it first came out, which is 10 years ago now. And I went off it a bit when I played it in 2011, 2012, but I've been wanting to try it again. And again, it's Lord of the Rings, and I love Lord of the Rings. And my gaming tastes have evolved over the years, so some things that I didn't used to like, I'm more accepting of now. So I went back and we played it. We played it on the Saturday night, and I did really enjoy it. We played 4-player. I think 2 might be the optimum number for the game, maybe 3, because it was a little bit slow with 4 players. And I had a similar feeling as I'm getting now with Gloomhaven. We used to play Gloomhaven 4-player regularly, and it was 2.5 to 3 hours for a game. Me and Vicky are now playing Gloomhaven, and we're playing a scenario in 1.25 to 1.5 hours. I think 3 might be the optimum number for Gloomhaven, and I think 3 might be the optimum number for Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. But my point is, I think I get the same amount of enjoyment, I get a higher amount of enjoyment to time ratio than I do playing these games 2 to 3 player than I do 4-player, okay? So 4-player Gloomhaven is probably better than 2-player Gloomhaven. But 4-player Gloomhaven takes me twice as long. So that's what I'm saying. The ratio of enjoyment to time is probably more with fewer players. But would I play a 2-player game of Terraforming Mars? No, I'd probably always want to play that with 3 or 4 players. It depends on the game, it really does. Anyway, Lord of the Rings, living card game. Yeah, that won't ever be a public stream unless I actually get out the physical cards. But it was nice to play it, and that's that. Ticked off my list. Unfortunately, I enjoyed it, which means I'm going to want to play it again. Right, on the Sunday, I did 3 videos on the Sunday. These are all on the channel now if you are interested. The first thing I did was a live playthrough of Aeon's End, 3-player game, me, John and Rick, and we played Aeon's End, just the base game, okay? So we didn't use any of the 1,000 expansions that are out for it. We played Aeon's End, the base game, and we did that, and that's live on the channel. Now, Aeon's End is an amazing game. I absolutely love Aeon's End. I've said it before, it is probably my favourite cooperative deck building game. I just love some of the mechanisms in the game. The fact that you don't shuffle your deck, the fact that you can keep cards in your hand from one turn to the next, the fact that you have to prepare spells and then they get cast at the start of your next turn. There's so many small, really important tactical decisions to make in the game. you know, there are some deck building games which use the play all mechanism. And I have an issue with those, because whether you get that combo or not is you draw your 5, you discard your entire hand, you shuffle your deck, you draw 5 cards. Did you get the combo or not? No. That's down to luck. You can't even choose to keep a card from one turn to the next. So with the play all mechanism, whilst it's used in lots and lots of games, it's, did I manage to get a lucky combo? No. Did I get a lucky combo? Yes. You're removing a lot of player choice. Aeon's End doesn't have that. You don't shuffle your discard pile for a start, you flip it over. So the order of cards you put in the discard pile is important. And also, you can keep cards from one round to the next. So if you're saving up for a big combo and you've got one card of it, you keep that in hand. You just don't get rid of it. It's just really, really good. The way that all the different enemies work, the way that all of the different, it's just fantastic. I mean, go and watch the video. It was a great game. It was a really, really good playthrough. My only criticism, and it's not a criticism of game, my only problem with the game of Aeon's End is a lot of games can come down to the wire. Now, when a game comes down to the wire, surely that's a good thing, right? It's good, it's tense, oh, it's dramatic. Yeah, I absolutely get that, right? That game of Aeon's End, and I won't spoil how it ended, but it was so down to the wire and it was so close. The one random element in the game, well, maybe it's not the only one, but the turn order deck. If the next card that came out was the Nemesis card, we lost. If the next card that came out wasn't a Nemesis card, we won. And part of me is like, well, that was an amazing hour and a half. I absolutely loved that game. It was amazing for an hour and a half. And if we win or lose, it doesn't matter, because it's been an hour and a half. It's been amazing. Another part of my brain is thinking, what was the point in playing this game for the last hour and a half and expending a huge amount of brain power and a huge amount of thinking and all of this collaboration and all of this discussion and these arguments about, oh, should we buy that? Should we go here? No, I think we should do that. What's the point of all of that if we win or lose based on the flip of a card at the end of the game? Now, as I say, they are two extreme points of a scale. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and you might argue that without all of that discussion, without all of those decisions, we wouldn't have ended up at the point. You know, we had to work that hard in order to get the game to that point at the end. It was fantastic. Do I want to play more Aeon's End? Yes. Do I want to launch a Kickstarter so to fund me for a month so I can take a month off work and just play Aeon's End live on the channel? Yes. It's brilliant. Absolutely love it. And I know James Naylor, who's going to get a mention later on in this vlog, wanted to know what I thought about Aeon's End. If you're interested, definitely check out that video, James. And if you're interested, yeah, let's have a game sometime. Right, next up on the Sunday, I did something different. So Sunday afternoon, I did a live stream of me playing through a fantasy game book. This is Heroes of Rowan, which is based on a series of novels, unfortunately only available in Spanish. But last year, when I was doing some fighting fantasy game book coverage, a guy called David Velasco, who's an author from Spain, contacted me and said, Paul, I've actually done a game book and I'd like to send you a copy of it if you're interested. And I said, well, sure, I'll give it some coverage on the channel. And can you give me an extra copy so I can use for a giveaway? And he said, yeah, no problem. So it was another one it was a 2-hour stream where I basically played through and the audience made the choices for me. So where we went, what we did, that was down to the audience. If you are interested in fantasy game books in any way, go and check out the video, go and see if you're interested, because that is not a 30-year-old game, 30-year-old book. It's available right now. You can buy it right now on Amazon if you're interested in it. And yeah, the main difference for me in that is that it was clear for me as a reader that this game book was based on a world, which it is, it's set in the world of these other fantasy novels, because there was a lot of lore and a lot of background and a lot of detail. So that was quite cool. Finally, on the Sunday, and you should definitely go and watch this video, this is Trails of Tucana. Trails of Tucana is a very simple roll and write game, but it is one of those games where everybody can play along at home. So if you go to Aporta Games' website, download the La Petite Isle map, you can watch that video and you can play along with me. Basically, I turn cards over and then you fill in boxes based on, you have some choices, and then you check your score at the end. So it's a game which I did a live stream of. People were playing along at home, and then they sent in their scores at the end. Games like this are great right now because of lockdown, but also these games are great. I could do Trails of Tucana again with like friends and family all around the country, and it's like playing a game together. Nothing will ever replace sitting at the same table as somebody else, but games like this are fantastic. Now, my opinion on roll and write games, because I know Andrew wanted to know, is that this game was very, very light and very, very simple. And I know a lot of people are going to think, Paul's not interested in games like that. Well, you couldn't be more wrong. Trails of Tucana was brilliant, right? It was a really simple game, but it was really nice to play. It was really enjoyable. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's the thing. If you're going to give me a simple game that's going to take an hour and a half, I'm not that interested. Or if you're going to give me a simple game where I don't really have any choice and I'm just following through the motions, then I'm not that interested. But a 15 to 20 minute game with simple rules that's actually enjoyable, where I do actually have some choice and there is some strategy, yeah, I'm all over that. So Trails of Tucana is not a new game. It came out in 2019, but a Porter Games sent me a copy because they were sending me a copy of Capital Lux. So they said, oh, do you want a copy of this while you're at it? And I was like, okay, sure. Roll and write games are not really my thing. Not that I don't like them, but I'm not known for covering lots of roll and write games on the channel, but I'm glad they did. And it was really enjoyable, and I'm taking it to a friend's house at the weekend. Finally, the last game that I'm going to talk about in the list of games that I've played in the last 5 weeks is Scrumpy Card Cider. Scrumpy Card Cider is a game which is on Kickstarter right now. It's designed by a very good friend of mine, Paul Fronsdorf-Harris, who I've known for years. He's a fellow convention organizer, and this is his first game that he's designed, and he's going on Kickstarter himself with it. It has funded, which I'm extremely happy about, but it's got lots of stretch goals. So there's a video on my channel from Monday night. I had a dabble with the game in the afternoon. I played a couple of rounds of it with Paul just to get the rules in my head. And then we did a full live playthrough on Monday night. So that's on the channel now. Monday night, Scrumpy Card Cider, a playthrough with me and the designer. And it is on Kickstarter right now. So because Paul's a friend of mine, I'm not going to sit here and shill his games and say, oh, you need to go and buy it. What I'm saying is go and check it out. Paul is a new designer. He's a math teacher. He's a full-time math teacher. That's his job. But certainly go and check it out to see if you're interested. It's deck building. It's got a nice theme, but the way that it uses its cards, somebody mentioned in the live chat, it's a little bit like Glory to Rome in the way that works. But the really interesting thing about the game is that you have the 4 types of resources in the game, or 5, and you use the cards in your hand face down to represent those resources. Now you see what the cards are. So for example, in my game, I needed to make some bottles of cider. In order to make some bottles of cider, I needed to play a card called the Presser. The Presser I didn't have in my hand, and it wasn't in my discard pile, and it wasn't in my deck. So that means it was one of my face down cards. And you might think, oh, that's terrible. But actually, you are allowed to look at your face down cards at any time. So I knew exactly where the Presser was. And at the start of your turn, you can sell one of your cards for money. So what that meant is, at the start of my turn, I was like, there's the Presser. It's currently an apple. So I'll sell that. I'll get a coin. And now that card has gone from there, and it's now in my discard pile. Right, it's now part of my deck again. So you really have quite a bit of control over your cards and what cards you need where. Anyway, I won't talk about it too much more. The video's on the channel. You can watch that and learn how to play. And that is all of the games that I've been playing. Oh. So that's the end of all of the games that I've been playing. Now on to some of the other stuff. So other videos that have been on my channel in the last few weeks. So I released the second episode in my new top 10 series of games. So this year I've launched a new series, which is a series of top 10 videos. The first one went live February, I think it was. And then a couple of weeks ago I launched the second one. This is the top 10 most anticipated games of 2021. Now, similar to my other top 10 video, these aren't necessarily the games that my top 10, but my Patreon supporters voted on what games they were looking forward to, and then I put all of those votes together and made a top 10 video. Now, I did add some of my own as well, but I feel much more comfortable with my Patreon supporters voting, and then me adding some extra ones rather than my personal games that I'm that I'm looking forward to. Now, what was interesting is the idea was that my Patreon supporters would vote on their games that they are most excited about for this year. And I think I had about 150 people, 200 people voting, maybe something like that. But the reason why I'm a bit nervous about doing the top 10 videos myself is that I'm actually really looking forward to some of the games that I'm working on. So if I was to be really honest, I'm really looking forward to Frostpunk, but I'm professionally involved in Frostpunk. I'm really looking forward to Weather Machine, but I'm professionally involved in Weather Machine. So what do I do? Do I do a top 10 games of games that I'm looking forward to that I have no professional involvement in? Yeah, anyway, so what I'm saying is my Patreon supporters voted, and then when I put all of the results into a spreadsheet, 8 out of the top 10 games that my Patreon supporters voted on are ones which I was involved in. And I was a bit surprised by that, but you might think, well, hang on a minute, Paul, they're your Patreon supporters, so they're kind of going to be interested in games that you're either involved in or games that you like anyway. But to find 8 of the 10 games on that list were ones which I was involved in some way was a bit of a surprise. Anyway, that video is on the channel now. It is the top 10 games, plus a few of my own, most anticipated games of 2021. That's on the channel. Next up, I did a video for April 1st. I won't say any more, but go and check it out if you want a bit of a laugh. It's a video that I did. It went live on April 1st. It's called CGE, Exciting New CGE Game for 2021 or something like that. But yeah, if you want to laugh, go and check that out. Cloudspire expansion. So I did an unboxing video of Cloudspire, the upgrade kit and all of the expansions. If you're interested in unboxing videos, that's on the channel now. If you're not interested in unboxing videos and you think, Paul, when are you going to show Cloudspire? Stay tuned. I also did a live Q&A. Every month I do a live Q&A, so thank you very much to everybody for joining in that. Right, other things that I've been working on. Rulebooks. Uthea. Uthea, as of last week, is now finished, done, gone. The rulebook, the appendix, the second appendix, the scenario book, the reference card, everything. Everything for Uthea is gone, done. Thank you very much to all of the backers of the game that gave their feedback on the few points in the rulebook that we've tweaked, but that should be done and ready to go. Weather Machine, work in progress, still working on that with Vittel. Burn Cycle, work in progress, still working on that with Chip Theory Games. And Endless Winter. Endless Winter is going to print soon. Johnny Pack Canton has been doing some development work on the game. I'd done the rulebook for it last year, but there's been a number of development changes that have come out. So I've spent a bit of time over the last week updating the rulebook, and as of yesterday, that is now done. That is now going to layout, ready for final proofing. Yeah, there's been a few changes made to Endless Winter, all of which I agree with from a game development perspective. I'm not a game developer on that game whatsoever. I was only hired to write the rulebook and to do a video, but I had my own personal thoughts on the game, which were, oh, this bit here is a little bit fiddly. Oh, and this scoring is a little bit fiddly. Thankfully, I wasn't alone in that. And Johnny, along with the playtesters, has been making tweaks and changes, and a lot of the things in the game, it is the same concept, it's the same idea, so you're not going to get a different game, but it's just streamlined it and made it smoother. So yeah, that's really good to see. Other things, as well as the Streets How to Play video, as of this morning, the Keeper at Sea video is also finished. That has uploaded to YouTube this morning, and that will be going live next week because Keeper at Sea is going on Kickstarter next week, and the video will go live at the start of the campaign. Right then, Patreon update. As mentioned at the start of this video, and in fact, 3/4 of the other content that I'm creating at the moment is not sponsored in any way. It's purely funded through the Patreon campaign. I really enjoy making these videos, and I really enjoy the life that I have producing video content for people. So thank you very much to all of my Patreon supporters who, support me financially in order to be able to carry on doing this. Thank you very much. Every month I say a big thank you to all of my new supporters that have joined in the last month. So picture on screen right now, these are all of the people who started supporting me in March. Okay, if you have started supporting me in April, and you're watching this video and you're thinking, why is my name not on the list? I'm now a supporter of Paul. Your name will appear on next month's video log, because that what was on screen there was just the people who started supporting me in March. Now, I don't want this to come across in a wrong way, but January and February were amazing months for the Patreon, right? For those who don't know, I actually took January off from my paid work. So I did almost no paid work in January, and I spent most of my time producing a lot of live stream content, none of which was paid for. I did a little bit of rulebook work in the background, but really not much. And the Patreon support in January and February was the highest that I've had since I launched the Patreon campaign. It was really good. Something's changed in the last 4 or 5 weeks. I don't know if it's anything to do with the content that I've been making, my haircut, or whatever, but Patreon support has actually been going down for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Now, I don't want anybody who is watching this, who is already a Patreon supporter, to up their pledge because I've said it's going down, okay? I'm just saying it is going down. I'm not sure why it's going down. There's a few new people joined, as mentioned, but overall, more people have been leaving than joining. Now, some of those people have been leaving, have been doing so for very good reasons. I spoke to somebody earlier this week who's recently cancelled their Patreon support. They're a friend of mine. They've just lost their job. That's totally understandable. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. So I'm not saying, oh, woe is me, people are dropping their Patreon support, because the world is a difficult place right now and people are struggling. It's just one of those things. So yes, Patreon support for the last few weeks has been down. The reason I'm mentioning it is I actually had some plans. Because of January and February being so good, I actually had a plan that I was going to have like a stretch goal thing. Whenever I got to 700 Patreon supporters, I was going to start doing something new. And then I had a master plan that if I get to 800, and I was aiming to get to 800 by July, which is going to be my birthday, and I had something planned if we got to 800. I've cancelled those plans. I'm going to shelve them because I don't know, I just feel while things are going up, support was going up in January and February, and I was getting even more motivated to produce even more content, and I have been doing. I've been producing a lot of content. You know, I don't do a video thinking, oh, I've done another video, this is going to get me more support. I don't think about it like that. It just is a little bit demoralizing sometimes when you have spent a week producing loads of content and you lose some Patreon supporters and you don't get anybody new. Anyway, moving on. What was I trying to say? So I'm going to shelve these ideas that I had because it just feels wrong while Patreon support is currently dropping to say, oh, but I'll do this if I get to 700. Because what I'm doing is I'm setting myself up for a target which I might not get to. So contest. Every month I do a contest to win something. Last month's contest was to win a copy of Streets, the deluxe edition. And I've just realised while I'm filming this right now, I haven't done the draw yet. So normally at this point, I will announce the winner, but I haven't done it. So I will do that in the editing. So between me filming this right now and when this gets edited, I'll do the draw and then I will insert the winner here. So congratulations to that person, whoever won. Well done. Now, this month's contest, which is only running for another 14 days, or what day? No, 14th. How many days in April? 30. 16 days. 15 for when this goes live. Anyway, until the end of April, the contest is to win a copy of Stroganoff. Now, Stroganoff is a game from Game Brewer that I did a video for. And yeah, now this is one of those contests where you don't have to enter, okay? I do various contests. Some of them people have to enter. This one you don't, okay? If you are a Patreon supporter of mine at producer level or higher, you are automatically entered into this contest and that's it. You cannot enter it any other way. The only way to be eligible to win this contest is if you are a Patreon supporter at producer level or higher. Thank you very much to Game Brewer for basically giving me a copy of the game to give away as part of the giveaway. So yeah, thank you very much and good luck everybody. I'll do the draw and announce it on next month's video log. Right, future stuff. So things that are happening in the next few weeks. Very exciting, lots of exciting stuff. First of all, tonight, Too Many Bones. I'm playing Too Many Bones once a month the second Wednesday of every month. So that's tonight. When I say tonight, it's tonight for me. You're probably going to be watching this video on Thursday, so it will have been last night. Anyway, Too Many Bones. I'm playing Tantrum solo against Gendrix. We'll see how we get on. That's tonight. This Friday, Dominant Species Marine, Game 2. This time with the right rules. So yeah, Dominant Species Marine that I played last Friday, we got one of the rules wrong. So this Friday, we're going back. It's going to be me, Graham, and we're going to look for a third. Ray can't make it, unfortunately, this time. So yeah, Dominant Species Marine this Friday, same time on the channel, just hopefully with the right rules. Next week, the Keeper at Sea video will go live because the Kickstarter goes live, so that's next week. On Wednesday, I'm doing Florence. So this is the new game from Braincrack Games, the follow-up to Ragusa. What was the second one? I did a video for it. Venice? Yeah. I was thinking Vienna. I was thinking they've not done a game called Vienna. That was Ultravox. Yeah, so Ragusa, Venice, Florence is the third one in the series. And this, next Wednesday, so this coming Wednesday, 21st, I'm going to be doing a live playthrough video with Russ from Chits for Giggles and one of the designers. So that's happening. We're going to be using Tabletop Simulator, but that's happening on Wednesday. And I think that Kickstarter is going live on Wednesday as well. Next Friday, nobody knows this yet. I haven't told anybody, apart from the person I'm doing it with. But after the success of my playthrough with Tom Heath on Mage Knight, Tom has been meaning to play Cloudspire for a long time. Now that I've got the upgrade kit, I really want to get back into playing Cloudspire again because it was my #1 game in 2019. Absolutely love it. And I've seen an opportunity to help Tom learn how to play the game. A little bit like with Mage Knight. Tom's been playing a bit more Mage Knight to try and relearn it. Cloudspire, again, I've seen an opportunity where I can help him learn the game, but also get to play it again. So that's going to happen not this Friday, but next Friday. Me and Tom are going to be doing a dual stream where we're both going to be streaming and we're both going to be playing Cloudspire and we're going to be playing solo. We're going to be playing a solo game of Cloudspire, but we're going to be playing it together. So there you go. That's next Friday. Other stuff that I've done in the last couple of weeks, which is going to come out later. I did a podcast recording with James Naylor. So James Naylor, designer of Magnate, which is going to be coming out this year, I think. Yes, it's going to be delivered to backers this year. James has become a friend over the last couple of years that I've known him. James is now doing a podcast called Producing Fun, which is looking at the industry side of board gaming. And he got me on to talk about rule books and other things. So that's all been done. James is editing that together, and that's going to be coming out nearer the end of this month. I will let everybody know when it does. And also, I was invited to be part of a video with Mark from Board Game Coffee, Mark Meyer, and also David Waybright from Man vs. Meeple. And it was a really fun video to do, and I can't say that much about it. But basically, we're going to be going through 10 games. So Mark picked 10 games that both me and David had played, and he put them together into 5 head-to-head battles. And in each of those head-to-head battles, one game we can keep, and the other one we have to remove all copies from existence so that nobody will ever play it again. I was dreading that because I don't like making those kind of decisions, but it was a really, really fun show. So I think that's going to be coming out near the end of this month. I will announce it when it does. Other news. I said in the last video log that time for me seems to be passing a lot quicker. And it only felt like a couple of weeks since the last video log. I'm going to say exactly the same now, right? I don't know what's going on at the moment, but time just seems to be, it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's the next video log already? Well, what have I done? What have I done in the last month? And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I haven't done anything. This is really weird. A month has gone by and I don't feel that I've done very much. And I think it's because I'm caught up in this cycle of live streaming, doing this, rule books, doing that. I've had to work a couple of the weekends to catch up on a backlog because I've had some small health issues, which meant I've lost out on some days of the week, which meant I've had to catch up at weekends. I worked most of the Easter weekend. Then we had virtual bake on it, and all of a sudden the time has just gone. So yeah, I don't know what's happening at the moment. Time just seems to be flying by a lot quicker. You know, Virtual Bake-On was great. I spent 3 days playing games, which was fantastic. But I haven't had much downtime to do some of my usual painting, TV, and everything else. I've been doing a bit of it, but just not as much as previously. Vicky's been making progress with her Millennium Falcon, so I'll put a picture of that on screen now. You can see this is really coming along. She could probably get this finished, I think, in a few more evenings' work, but she doesn't want to finish it too quickly, so pacing it out. But yeah, that's coming along really nicely. And yeah, been watching some films, been doing a bit of painting and stuff like that. That's about it. Now, lockdown is starting to ease in the UK. Starting a couple of weeks ago, we were allowed to go and see other people outside. We're still not allowed to mix indoors. So we went round to Vicky's parents because it was a mum's birthday. So we spent the day with them in the garden. It was freezing, but that was nice. Shops have opened in the UK, but that's not affecting me at all. We're not going out still. I'm going to get my hair cut next week, but that's about it. And we're going round to some friends this Sunday. We're going to go and sit with them in the garden for a couple of hours. Now, I've been lucky in the fact that if lockdown was to continue for another year, so be it. I get a lot of human contact from talking to people online, chatting to people online, both with voice or with text, Skype calls and things like that. Yes, it's always nice to see people in person, but I'm not desperately struggling to see people, right? So we're going around to some friends this weekend. They've invited us round. Nick and Gemma have invited us round. We're gonna go around there. Again, we've got to sit outside, but near the end of May, from halfway through the May, if plans continue, lockdown is going to ease a little bit more in the UK. So then after the next video log, there will be some in-person games coming on the channel. So not between now and May's video log, but after that, there will definitely be some live videos with other people in the studio with me. And that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. As usual, I've probably forgotten something, but if you've got any questions, let me know. Well, if you've got any questions about this video log, or if you've got any comments on any of the games that I've talked about, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Also, if you've just watched this video, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, because all of that really, really does help the algorithm. And again, huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you like the content that I make, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The Patreon funds pay for my time off work to create videos like this and a lot of the playthroughs that I'm doing. Yeah, that's everything. Until next time, take care. I'll see you soon. Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.